Damn. Too low, you fine.
Hello and welcome to On the Same Page, a podcast in which two mates separated by oceans and hemispheres talk about books and catch each other up on life between the lines. Unfortunately, we can't get together in person, but through this podcast we hope to get on the same page. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of On the Same Page. As always, I'm joined by Blake.
In person.
In person. Still in person, everybody.
What a
How's it
pleasure
going?
It's going. Time is going. I have been getting some sun.
You're looking good. Nice and brown.
Yes.
Browner. From white.
Speaking French for a second. Brownier. Yeah, no, I've had some burns, but now I'm slowly adjusting to UVs and
the 12 UV.
Yeah, the actual sun instead of the kind of artificial Truman Show sun that is in Germany.
Yep.
So that's pretty good. And I have spent the week doing a bit of reading, which we're about to get to.
And what did you read this week?
Well,
separate from the next segment, of course, which is what are we reading this week?
Well, I mean, this week I have been reading, and then there were none, which is the topic of this podcast, of course. I've never read it before.
Very
Highly
good.
recommended. Seamus gave me a copy of this 2 years ago.
2018, 4 years ago.
It couldn't have been that long ago.
It was 2018. Oh, no, it was 2019. It was
Okay.
January 2019.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't
then
know.
COVID hit.
We're in Berlin, yeah.
You lost 2
I have
years.
no idea what happened between those years.
Exactly.
But firstly, before we jump in there, it's time for your inner shelf, Seamus.
Inner shelf. Well, this or last weekend, I went down to Bundina. Little weekend getaway. And while there, I did very little reading, very little anything, but I did a bit of writing, and I thought I might, this is unscripted, but I thought I might just read a small page and a half. It's A5, so very small.
Written it, script is exactly what it is.
Well, yeah. It's not edited. I haven't gone back to edit it.
Yeah.
This could be
it's
terrible.
It's a nice surprise for me. I'm excited.
This was
Hit me with this.
Sunrise, Bundina. How persuasive the air was down here, dripping out of the water, dumping waves. Legions of Poseidon's white horses charging the beach in a war that I hoped would never end. I watched those waves, those horses, their manes flying back against the wind, gold-crested flecks, sun and salt. The wind is pale against the light of the sun. Apricity is not the touch I am used to. I am alone here. The beach is empty. The curved dome of white sand is thin and threadbare. There is no sound save the dumping charge of those waves rushing up with a fervent gleaming luster before thinning and retreating back to launch another attack. Poseidon is winning. It is not a fair fight. The moon will turn and wink, the land will puff its chest, and the ocean will recede.
Ooh.
I'll leave it there for that little bit.
I mean, your mic is on a little stand, but if it wasn't, it would be dropping right now. That was
Please don't
I like
drop.
that a lot. The winking moon, the cavalry charge of Poseidon's horses, the
I like the moon bit as
persuasive
well.
winds.
Yeah.
Oof, I like that. There's a poet in you.
So that was my little
There is a poet in you.
my little inner shelf. Just a bit of riding at sunrise down in Bundina. Good spot of the world as well if you ever want to get down there.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was nice.
Bundina.
Just south of Cronulla. I think we went there once.
Oh, did we?
Probably,
Back in the
yeah.
day. Back in the day when Seamus and I were just working class gents moving furniture.
Now we're millionaires.
One of us, maybe.
I'm definitely not a
Must be
millionaire.
nice, Travis. It must be very nice.
That is
With
not
your
true.
microphone stand.
That is
and
not
your,
true.
And your trips
This came with the
abroad to
microphone. We have the
Bundina.
same microphone, ladies and
But
gentlemen.
yours is on a hangy stand thing. Mine's just on the stand that it
I'm a
came
professional.
with, which
I'm
is
a professional.
very working man.
Yeah, I've got that
I
one as
think
well.
you have lost touch with the common man. I think that's what's happening right here,
I'm
right
on my
now.
throne over here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
He
nice.
spits some poetry
Mhm.
and then
I'm
all-
bouncing. Yeah, so yeah.
He's better than us.
Yep.
And, why not?
Why
You
not?
should be.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of little ventures, I also ventured out of Sydney,
Mhm.
to the borderlands.
Yes.
I took and to international listeners, they'll have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, sorry, everyone.
So to put it in, I don't know, more general terms, I took a ferry to a beach which is just north of Sydney, and where there is a pub, and just kind of hung out there with my partner and my
How
mum.
was it? Good pub?
It's a good pub. Yeah, it's
been done up recently.
They've done it up. The pub even owns the ferry now, so the ferry's kind of all a bit very Hamptons vibe, which is the beach club. What's it called? The club. What is it? The Boathouse?
The Boathouse.
The name of the company that owns all these pubs these days. Yeah. Every time I leave and come back, they seem to have bought 10 more things.
Yes, I think they declared bankruptcy 3 times, but somehow still keep buying stuff up. Let's not get political. Something's going on.
But they're doing something. But something's working because they're doing up lots of nice old pubs. And it's good. It's a chill little town. I think I could live there. I mean, it's not that great to swim. It's just an inner kind of harbour beach. But it was very quiet apart from the pub. And, I could just write there all day and then go to trivia on Tuesdays and have
would be lovely.
mussels on Thursdays and whatever else.
Freshly caught, of course.
Doesn't sound too shabby, to be honest.
Sounds nice. Must be nice.
Samira, not very used to being on boats off lakes as a kind of, what would you call it? A land-bound German.
Yes.
So she didn't much like the swell coming in through the heads of pit water. True. Got a bit bumpy on the way back.
Yep.
And but all the oldies on board didn't bat an eyelid. They were just conversation.
I'm sure they've all got tales of swimming it back in the old days or something when there was no ferry.
Back in the day, we used to have to swim to Patonga.
There were sharks everywhere. All right.
Yeah, sharks this week. They're pretty good. Let's not talk about that because it's scary.
That is morbid, but the book we're talking about
is a bit
morbid.
Surprised that there wasn't a shark attack in this film.
Yeah.
In this book.
Well, surprised someone didn't try get off the island, to be honest.
So, I mean, should we do a little bit of a plot overview of?
Yes. Did you want to do it, or shall I?
Give it a go.
All right. And then there were none. So I've got 8 people arrive on this island, invited by an unknown guest. When they arrive, only the housekeeper and the cook are there. Bad weather prevents them from leaving, and one by one they start to die. Along the way, they realise that that the dying is laid out in a poem that appears on nearly every room in the house, and that also the killer is among them. That's basically all you need to know. I've got the poem as well, which I might read. It is relatively long, a bit repetitive, but I think it's essential. So we'll address that after. 10 little soldier boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8. 8 little soldier boys travelling in Devon. One said he'd stay there, and then there were 7. 7 little soldier boys chopping up sticks. One chopped himself in half, and then there were 6. 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. 5 little soldier boys going out for law. One got in chancery, and then there were 4. 4 little soldier boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. 3 little soldier boys walking in the zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. 2 little soldier boys sitting in the sun. One got frizzled up, and then there was 1. 1 little soldier boy left all alone. He went out and hanged himself, and then there were none.
That's the nursery rhyme which spells out the crime.
And it's an actual nursery rhyme.
Yeah, those
it used to be to help them count. Yeah. One hung himself, and then there was none.
I mean,
what's going on there?
I wish I had that when I was a kid. I still can't count.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that is more or less the killer follows. He's a literary figure, he or she, we don't know. Likes to enjoy a bit of keeping to...
He's dramatic. She's dramatic. They are dramatic.
Who knows?
Okay, I think we've given a little spoiler there.
It is dramatic. Who knows?
Them.
But, I mean, if you haven't read this book or seen one of the films, I think there's quite a few adaptations. There was a recent BBC one I watched the trailer of just earlier today.
It's really good. It is actually really good.
I actually want to watch that.
3-hour, 1-hour episodes.
Sam Neill and stuff. Damn.
Charles Dance. Yeah.
Charles Dance. Oh.
Yeah.
God. But so spoilers ahead, everyone. We're just going to talk about what happens. If you haven't read it, give it a read. It doesn't take that long. Watch one of the adaptations. Although I'm pretty sure there's a few adaptations in which they change the endings.
Yeah, I think
they end happily and things like that. Because this ending is not so happy.
Everyone dies, as the poem tells us.
Everyone dies.
That's not a spoiler.
No. Actually, do you have a one-word summation this week?
I do. Pressure.
Ooh. Under pressure.
Ding, 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 ding. Under pressure.
Yeah. Pressure's good.
Pressure's
good.
The whole book is just pressure.
The
I
whole
mean, you
book
could
is
throw
good pressure.
anxiety, just pressure. Just pressure.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Well, it sounds harsh, but
Oh yes. Did you like the book? Monotony. Oh, interesting. Okay.
I mean, even just the poem is monotonous, and
Yes.
for me, that kind of even let out a bit of the pressure. I was just like, okay, there's a bit of a thing going on here. I just kind of want to get to the end. So we can get into it, but I found it a bit monotonous. I mean, I found it interesting, and it was well written, of course.
Very good writer.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess if...
So you think it's monotonous because you know they're going to die, and you know how they're technically going to die?
No, I think I just found it monotonous because it's just like 10 people have to die, and so they each have to have their way of death, and they each have to die, and then you have to get to it before you find out. And I was just not... I mean, it was fine. I enjoyed it, but I was... I don't know. It didn't particularly have me like, oh my God, who is doing this? This is insane.
Did you take a guess at who the killer was?
Mentally? I did. I mean, I think it was Agatha Christie's obvious, her real genius that she leads you down so many different paths of, I think it's this person, I think it's that person. And I don't know that this is, for a moment I thought it was the Doctor, Armstrong. I'm not sure if we should discuss a few characters, but there's all sorts of characters. There's a handsome young guy. There's a doctor. There's a judge. There's a kind of a former governess. There's the two housekeepers.
There's the general.
There's a general former military man.
The rich older lady.
Rich old lady. So there's a kind of a cast of characters, and they all have a vague, have perhaps vaguely perpetrated an injustice in the part of had to do with a murder or a death, or perhaps even a mass murder in one person's case.
Yes.
And which is interesting, and we'll come back to that. And when they all get to the island, they're not really sure while they're there. They have dinner and everything seems fine. And then a gramophone plays more or less an indictment of each of them saying, here you are, you've been brought to this island to, serve justice for the murder of, you stand accused, there you are. So that's more or less how it gets started. So they're all like, what?
And they're all in denial about it as well.
Yeah. And everyone's like, oh, I didn't do it. And, there's always
Not
ambiguities
true.
about it. And they're like, oh, no, I tried, or I did this. And you never get any certainty, so you think obviously anyone could be the crime's mastermind at any one time. Although perhaps you want to maybe talk about who the actual perpetrator is. How did you know the whole time?
I didn't I guessed it was him purely based on, this is a spoiler, he died number 5 right in the middle, and I figured if you're executing a plan like this, I always knew it would be one of the 10. Mm-hmm. And if you're executing a plan like this, you can't die too early because I think that leaves too much chance of someone stumbling across you. Mm-hmm. And you can't die too late because then it leaves too much chance of someone going crazy and killing you out of fear. Mm-hmm. So I just went straight down the middle and I was right.
And that is, I mean, you're just as logical as Agatha. I mean, the book is wonderfully logical in its... To keep it so much mystery and to keep such a firm logic, I think that's like the real... I'm not big in the mystery genre, so I can't really tell why this is one of the most popular books of all time, or why it's better than many other mystery books. It just seemed like a decent mystery to me. But to be able to obviously pull off that many murders and to not be ridiculous or something like that.
Yeah.
And to keep it logical,
really,
and then
keep
for the
it logical
ending to
and not be ridiculous.
Well.
Yeah.
But no, for me, I mean, the perpetrator ends up being Justice Wargrave, who's the kind of elder statesman, and he was more or less, until he got shot, I think he gets shot in his faked murder.
He gets dressed up as the judge and shot.
Yeah. I was suspecting it was him, more or less just because he was the one who must be, just by perchance of his career, the most obsessed with justice. And he just immediately took control of every...
He did.
Situation.
That was something that I picked up on.
Which, of course, is he's in justice. He's used to being in charge.
Yes.
But Agatha also said that too much.
Yeah.
She also always made
and
that
he picks
caveat.
up on the un-Owen, UN-Owen.
Yeah. He pointed that out. So I was like, this guy's suspicious. But then, I didn't suspect the fake death. I completely forgot that in the rhyme, the 5th one also mentions the red herring. I just forgot about that.
The red herring.
the rhyme was like, oh, I'm already bored of this.
Yeah.
But then, but the death certainly, my nose turned away from him, and I thought it was Vera Claythorne for a little while after that.
Oh, interesting.
And then I thought it was Armstrong again for a little bit, and then I even suspected it was someone like the boatman the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And he'd like snuck back or something, or sunk in his boat and was going to refloat it and leave, or I don't know what.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
even
the beauty of Agatha.
Sorry.
That's the beauty of Agatha.
Yeah.
Just don't know.
But then so that was So it was a nice ending. That
You
this
got the
guy
closure.
wanted to commit this perfect crime.
Perfect crime that can't be solved.
Mm.
But then, of course, he sort of reveals it. Because there's that great line. I've got it here. He puts his answer in a bottle and tosses it out to sea. And a seaman finds it. And that's how you sort of eventually find out what happened in the last few pages.
The epilogue is this kind of letter in a bottle of confession. Yeah.
And it's this is the quote. But no artist, I now realize, can be satisfied with art alone. There is a natural craving for recognition which cannot be gainsaid.
True.
And he couldn't live with the fact that it was a perfect crime. He just needed that little bit of recognition.
Yeah, I think Hegel called it something like the bane of association. Like even if you do something, you need to associate it with someone or get the thrill of association from it to create something. That it can't just be this, oh, I created this beautiful painting, that's just mine, I don't need to share that with anyone. And maybe you can do that, you're a very modest person and good for you, but I think a lot of artists are, by desperation of what they're trying to do, trying to connect with people. I'm writing a novel, I'm like, yes, this is for me, and I'm writing this novel because I think I'm the only person who can write the novel that I want to write. But at the same time, I want people to like it.
Of course. It's very natural.
I would love it for it to be successful. But I know it's a long shot, but still,
Gotta have a horse in the race.
Yeah. But I think it's probably time to mention the elephant in the room.
I was going to say the elephant in the room. I was going to say exactly that.
Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty big elephant. Or is it? It's let's talk about it. I mean, the original title of this book, or actually the original title, comes from the nursery rhyme, and as Seamus read out, it was the N-word instead of soldiers. Right. And then I think even
the island is called N-word Island instead of Soldier Island. Mm-hmm. You can fill the blanks, people.
And in my copy, which we have before us, it is, instead of N-word or soldier, it's Indian.
Yes, so I read up, because at the time when it got published, even that was too offensive for the American standards.
This is 1976.
And so I don't think it was ever published under the N-word in America. It was straight away changed.
Was very controversial already by the after the Civil War. So
because I've got an original copy, and that was printed, I think, 1975, and it's still using the N-word, so it lasted a long time.
In Britain, until like the 80s or something. I read on the Wikipedia page. So,
but then they intense.
Also, just because, and then there were none is better, I think.
Last line of the poem, and it also doesn't add anything. There's no black people in the story. Yeah. There's no reason to have it. I get she's taking it from the nursery rhyme. Yeah. But the island, calling the island.
I know this is I was trying to think about this because, at one point you can say, times were different, but that's a poor excuse. But that's also the fact of the matter. I mean, a lot of people of Agatha's generation wouldn't have batted an eyelid about saying a word like that. Yeah. Or even describing Native Americans as Indians, which is not as bad because even Native Americans call themselves the Indians, called the National Indian Movement. I mean, Russell Meade even calls himself an Indian. It's not, but, it's still just like a colonial mistake. What's that like Louis C.K. joke about how Christopher Columbus or whatever rocks up in America? He's like, are you guys Indians? They're like, no, we're like completely other people. He goes, you're Indians for the next 400 years. No, like we're actually completely different. No, shut up. But like you said, there almost seems to be no narrative reason at all to even go there. Although I read a criticism by Alison Light, who has argued I hope I'm getting her argument, I'm not doing it a disservice,
Mm.
but she suggests that there might actually be a purpose to the racist naming of the island, for either two reasons. Either that if you call it N-word Island or the little N-words, then it arouses some kind of exotic mystery, and therefore when you're wondering what's happened, you might think, oh, there's something occult going on, there's something superstitious, there's voodoo. You might have all of these kind of ridiculous connotations which just add to the atmosphere of mystery that she might have wanted. And the other one is that perhaps she was making a post-colonial point about, here is an island off the British coast where someone is serving out justice for past crimes,
right?
And that perhaps this is a kind of like, I think Justice Wargraves talks about in his confession letter that justice must be inevitable, or that he wants it to be inevitable, and that's part of his determination to commit these crimes. And that perhaps if you put this island offshore and you put these people here, it's like a bit of reverse colonialism, and then they get punished for it in that place.
Yeah, right.
But it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, it's a good thought.
In the end, I just think that it was pretty racist as hell at the time, and for a long time since.
Shocking.
And there was really no reason for it.
Literally no reason. And the fact that it lasted to the 70s and stuff was just...
Yeah.
Because it's I think number 5 or 6 on the top selling book of all time.
Yeah.
Sold over 100 million copies.
And it's not like Huckleberry Finn, where the use has a narrative purpose, has an evocative. It shows how
some of the hatred
how Jim was viewed at the time.
Yeah.
Just completely random. It's just like, I'm just going to throw in like a massive, like, pejorative slur for no reason.
So it was changed to, and then there were none.
Yeah, but it's also, it comes from a minstrel, and minstrels were going on like probably still in the 30s, I think. People getting up in blackface and saying all sorts of messed up shit, like,
oh
my god. But yeah, it's like, as long as if someone's like, oh, that really turns me off reading this book, I don't know. I don't think you should worry too much. It's really got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it was probably just a thing at the time, probably a publisher's decision. I don't know. The American publisher didn't go with it. Yeah. So
smart people.
But you'd think if the American publisher didn't go with it, the British publisher would have been aware that there was some. But then they just don't care.
Yeah, she was like the top writer at that stage for crime.
Yeah. But they're all dead now, so just read the book because it's a good mystery. Yeah,
it is a good mystery. But so you didn't really like it that much?
Well, I mean, I liked it, but I'm just not a massive mystery genre fan. So, I don't know if this is, when everyone talks about this as being, one of the greatest mystery books of all time. I don't have much to compare it to. I love Sherlock Holmes, and I like Poirot, and obviously more Agatha Christie, but that's because they're characters, and I like their characters rather than I'm particularly there because I'm hungry for the story. Yeah, I'm there because I like to be in the midst of the characters, and I like to see what Sherlock and Watson are up to. Yeah, more so that I like to see justice served on someone. I really don't care about that kind of vibe. Yep. And I don't like murder and that kind of thing. I'm just
You're not a massive anxiety, tense.
Yeah, no, I don't like pressure.
How did you find it for that? Because there is quite a few horror scenes, like not horror, but like the seaweed in the ceiling when Vera's sort of tripping out. Very creepy vibes. I don't know.
Vibes. For some reason, it just didn't work on me.
Oh, really?
I don't know if...
Interesting.
Because I was thinking, just watching the trailer of the most recent BBC adaptation, I was like, oh, with all the music and stuff, I'm already more scared than I was reading the book.
It's creepy.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if just because I read it and maybe my idea of Christie's style is more associated with Poirot, that it seems a bit lighter in my head. Yeah. Than how... Because it didn't seem that dark to me.
Because Poirot's going to save the day, basically.
Yeah, I guess, but it just didn't seem that dark to me. Things like the seaweed and stuff, I was just like, hurry this up. I'm kind of... like, it wasn't really gripping me, and I was interested. I wanted to see who did it all, but I certainly wasn't scared. I was kind of just annoyed that it was like I was having to do this countdown. Yeah. You know, it's so like if you're about to do something and someone's like, all right, count down for 10. It's like, oh, can you just do it from 3? Like, why do we have to do the whole 10? Like, let's get this done.
Yeah.
That was just my view, but I think that's just because I'm not, you know, I really don't vibe with that kind of, the actual pressure. I think I like a payoff to be continuous rather than at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not to say, you know, there's not great prose sections and stuff and little payoffs along the way and some really good descriptions and things like that. But, you know, I just want intensity from the get-go and yeah, real insight where when it comes to mystery, you're purposefully holding a lot of the intensity and mystery back to arouse a kind of suspense and stuff, which I'm just not my vibe.
So when you got to the end and you finally got the epilogue, what did you think then? Were you relieved? Were you happy? Disappointed?
I was I had, you know, that nice experience of like, oh, when did she have me thinking it was him? When did she have me thinking it was someone else? And curious of like, oh, maybe I should just go back and read this. Maybe a second reading, once you know, is more enjoyable just from a structural perspective. So you can see, because I think Christie herself spoke about this as her craftiest novel, that, you know, she worked so hard to make this idea work.
Well, yeah, I've thought about it a lot because it is a locked room mystery on a very big scale, and I don't think it's going to be able to be replicated, and I don't think it has since. I don't think you can have a better story where you put 10 people on an island and they start dropping off one by one that somehow has a bigger mystery than this one. So it really ruins that sort of genre.
Yeah. And the other thing that annoyed me was just the weather dependency of the whole story. The sea's up, so we can't do anything, like the whole time, as if Justice Walgrave was Poseidon.
Controlling the sea.
Like, how did you know that no boats could get out or all this kind of stuff?
I know.
Maybe just timed it for that time of year, and it's England and it's always like that.
Perhaps. But it was also just lazy in that he could have just paid the boatman to not come.
Yeah.
And that would have added a general suspense as well, in that the boatman should be here, but he's not. What is happening?
Yeah. But how about you with the suspense? You're a bit more experience in this genre.
I loved it, yeah.
And in terms of, why do you think this is spoken of as such a classic of mystery, as opposed to something else? I don't know.
I think because it is the ultimate locked room mystery, just on a massive scale.
You think it's like just she's just laying out on the table. She's just saying, like, look what I can do.
Yeah,
like
I
can
think
do
so.
The most impossible mystery and make it work, and everyone else is just like, oh, you know, there's someone died in Norfolk and we're going to go find out and whatever.
Yeah, I think she just gets a locked room mystery, puts it on the biggest scale possible, and ruins the genre for everyone else.
Right.
And she's like, you cannot top this now.
Right.
Which she does. And it's only, 200 pages? So even though you hated it.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it.
He hated it, listeners.
Come on, you don't have to love everything.
No. But it is very short. You didn't have to wait 600 pages or something.
God, I would have hated it then.
She's
if
very
she made
efficient.
me wait 600, no. I think it
very,
could have
very
even
efficient.
been... Yeah, I didn't hate it. You know, I think it's... But it's just, you know... I liked it, and it was...
You liked it, but you liked to get to the end.
Yeah, I wanted it to be over. I didn't want to
right.
stay in that world. I don't know, I didn't... I was kind of bored of it by the end. But, you know, I'd got to the point where, you know, in my reading life, where I'm not going to persist with something which that I don't like. Like, I did want to finish
it's for a podcast.
Yeah, but even you were like, you know, you have to read this. And I was like, if I don't want to read it, I won't finish it. But I did want to finish it. I did want to find out what had happened. You know, I'm still drawn into that.
Definitely want to find out.
But I think perhaps when it comes to this genre, I maybe just like it better on the big screen. I think when it comes to
they're
reading...
always fun to watch.
Yeah, when it comes to reading, I think my mind just doesn't allow the horror to seep in too much. You know, like there's lots of scenes where I'm just like, that actually sounds really beautiful and scenic, and I wouldn't mind being on that island and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, and then someone just got clubbed over the head, and I'm like, okay, never mind that. Go back to the descriptions of the ocean.
No, I was properly creeped out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I was loving it.
Was there a death which particularly irked you?
I think when Vera hangs herself, it's a pretty dark sort of chapter, her walking back to the house and it's pretty dark in the show as well. But I love that her like final descent into madness. I love like the mind, just like sort of watching people descend into madness.
Right.
It fascinates me.
Yeah.
And this is what happens. Like the whole seaweed through the thing. I love that. She's looking at the hook, constantly wondering why that's there, and it's there in the end because she hangs herself on it, and it was perfection. It was so good.
Wow. Yeah, I really don't have all those foreshadowing things, like what's the hook on the ceiling, and I mean even the hanging. I don't know. I felt like she was just kind of like walking in a daze and hanging herself, and it seemed to me melodramatic.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You've got to die because the poem says it's 10, and you followed it to the exactitude. But
how would you feel?
I mean, I guess that's maybe the mystery genre just doesn't give me that much. It didn't inspire that many feelings in me. I was just
you're on
wanting
an island,
to get to the end of the plot.
You know no one else is there, but you know there's a murderer, and now you're the only person left on the island, but you know you're not the murderer, except for when she kills Lombard.
Yeah.
It'd be fucking weird.
Would it though? Just get off.
I think so. Well, you can't get off. That's the point.
Yeah, but okay, now you got an island to yourself. Enjoy it. Like you got this fancy modern house in a
true, but she has committed murder in the past, and I think that's the pressure of it is that
right. It's the guilt
because she has killed a young boy, and
well, you don't know. Obviously, there's ambiguity, or does she confess?
No, she has killed. Yeah,
I thought. She actually drowns the boy, and the whole time she maintains a story that she tried to rescue him but couldn't get there.
Yes, so in the TV show, they sort of do it a bit. They portray it a bit better in that there's a little island off the coast, and she tells the boy to swim out to the island, and the boy tries to swim out, and then she tries like 5 minutes later to save him.
All right.
But obviously he's too young; he can't make it to the island, and she's told him to do it, so she's knowingly drowned him.
Yeah, see, I think I would be much more caught up in the whole thing if I had it on.
It's a good. Just watch the BBC.
With acting and the music and the whole.
It's very
shebang.
good.
Because when it's just a book, I don't know. I guess because I'm so unlettered in mystery, I'm not used to engaging all those parts of my brain. I'm used to watching that kind of thing. And like I said, with Sherlock or something else, reading it as a teenager, I was just like, this guy's so smart, and it's funny and it's Victorian, and I just kind of liked all that aspect. The fact that he solved the thing at the end was just like a perk. And with this, I was just like, this is the only perk I'm here for, and I want it ASAP so that I can move on. But how would you place this in terms of as a reader of Agatha Christie? I know you've read quite a bit of Agatha. How do you relate it to some of her other stuff?
So her main ones are Poirot and Miss Marple, and they're sort of the fun ones. It's probably my favourite, but there is another book she wrote called The Pale Horse, which is sort of loosely based on Macbeth, and that's also a detective story without a detective, and that one was sick as well. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I think just the mystery of not having the detective and therefore not knowing if I'm going to get the answer is exciting to me.
And do you get an answer? Or is it
you do get an answer, okay. Yeah. Like, you're always going to get an answer, of course, but like...
Otherwise it's just a masochism.
A waste of time. Everyone died, that's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a really good story as well, The Pale Horse. But you're right, I love the Poirots. The Poirot's fun, Sherlock's fun. They're my two favourite detectives.
Yeah. I think also perhaps it's just my fear response of, when you're in a proper detective novel, you have the security of the detective. When you take that detective out of the thing, it's a bit more haywire, and obviously it's more of a test for the writer to pull it off.
But very haywire.
For me, I'm just like, well, I don't really want to... I have enough suspense in my life. I don't want to play with this in my downtime. So it's not my jam. But I mean, it was, if nothing else, a masterful achievement in logic and cohesion over a whole project. I mean, to make it all work in the way it does. To tie it in, yeah. Whew.
Yeah. And her writing style is so fantastic.
Yeah, I've got a quote here which I quite liked. In the middle, I skip a little bit just to continue on to the end to make it to give it a bit of a flow. But there was something magical about an island. The mere words suggested fantasy. You lost touch with the world. An island was a world of its own. A world, perhaps, from which you might never return. Best of an island is once you get there, you can't go any farther. You've come to the end of things. I like that.
Yeah.
That was, I think, that was when I was most excited. They're about to go on the boat. These random people, you've been given all their introductions, which I think I liked the introductions the most.
Oh, see, I hated them.
No, I liked that because that was the character analysis. I was like, this is good. Now we've got some characters. All right, this is getting good.
Shit up.
And then from then on, I don't know, their characters just kind of seemed boring and tedious, and they more or less all had the same reaction to everything. And I was just like, I don't know, all of the individuality you gave them just kind of seeped into a collective fear response, and I was just bored of it. I don't know.
That's what I loved in that her storytelling. You sort of get, when everyone starts dying, you start getting their points of view, but because they're denying these crimes, they're all unreliable narrators, and you're just like, what is going on? Yeah. Who is the killer here? Yeah. And I loved it.
Who did you think before you picked the fifth death, did you think it was Justice Wargrave? When you just got the character analysis?
Up until then, I had no idea.
Right.
I had he was my first and only guess. And then I was sort of,
Oh, actually, I just thought, because we didn't cover this before, I remember from the character analysis, one of the characters, I said that there's not much of a colonial backstory in this, but one of the characters does murder like 20 East Africans in his past.
Yes.
And that's one of the crimes. That's the crime for which he's on the island. Is that Lombard?
Lombard,
That's Lombard. So there's a bit more to it, maybe, that Agatha, than just the racist name.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Because, that wouldn't be
killed a lot of people.
A viable crime if she just didn't give a shit at all. So, but, yeah, and that guy was pretty messed up. But I think I did like the dialogue is also wonderful. The way, different characters get put together for periods, and they both kind of agree that each other isn't the murderer. Like, we know we're not the murderer. Yeah. And then so you get each
little groups gather.
And then you kind of get different characters also eking out confessions from other characters, which at first you're like, oh, if he's eking out or she is eking out confessions, then this is obviously the perpetrator. They want to hear these people break their silences before they kill them. But then multiple characters do that as well. So you're never onto a sure thing at all.
So something she did was, and you find this out in the book, was the murders all take place in order of what Justice Wargrave thinks are the most heinous.
Right.
So he thinks Vera Claythorne's is the most heinous of the crimes. And who dies first? I can't even remember his name.
We can argue about that.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, this is like the classic argument between Sartre and Camus about, what's one death or a million deaths. What's the death of one boy for a whole tribe in East Africa or whatever the crime was? I can't remember exactly. Arithmetically, one is certainly more heinous than the other. Is someone's innocence and their age a component? If I can't remember if it was like just 20 people or an actual tribe. If you're killing an actual tribe, then that's actually genocide. Is one murder more than genocide? Then no. If you're deleting a whole culture, basically, then I don't think there's anything. That's why we have human rights post World War II. That you can't, as Hannah Arendt said at the end of Trial in Jerusalem, if you try and eradicate the plurality of people, the differences between us, then that's the only crime for which you should hang. And but he has his kind of Edwardian idea of justice, and
well, I guess
the killing of a child,
Lombard is a soldier, and soldiers are taught to kill, whereas Vera Claythorne was doing it for her emotional benefit of trying to secure money for the boy's uncle,
right,
to then marry the uncle and get money.
Comes into it a bit.
I think in Wargrave's mind, I'm thinking in Wargrave's mind, that Lombard, it was just a job. He was a soldier. He did bad things, which is expected.
And the first murders, so the least heinous, are of the kind of elderly help who didn't so much kill someone as not save them, more or less. They had access to a drug for a woman they were looking after, which would revive her or something in case for some medical condition she had. and they also knew that if she died, they got something in her will, and so they went for a long walk and just pretended
implicit in.
Yeah, they didn't administer what they could have administered, so it's a manslaughter, I guess, is what it is.
Yeah,
technically, the
intent of it all. Yeah, super fascinating.
But yeah, there's lots of different avenues for that, and as a talk about justice, it starts lots of ideas jumping around in your head.
It's interesting that he believes himself guilty as well, which he is. The judge this is.
Right. But then he's terminally ill. So
he's just acting out his sort of psycho last.
Yeah. And
last
that's
dance.
Not... Yeah. To me, that's not an excuse. That's an amoral decision. You know, if every terminally ill person just went on a rampage because they're not going to do anything. I mean, it's like...
They're going to die, yeah.
If you... For instance, what would you do if you were told now with surety? I mean, I haven't actually watched it, but I guess don't look up this new film on Netflix. It's about like a meteorite is about to hit planet and everyone's about to die. So apocalypse scenario, you've got 12 hours to live. What are you doing? You know, are you like going around smashing shit? Are you just making love? What are you doing?
Well, I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but I'd probably do exactly what DiCaprio does in the film.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil it.
All right.
But I'd probably just do exactly that.
Spoil it.
They just get together and they have just like a big last family dinner.
That's nice.
And then they all sort of hold hands just as like the wave is coming through of meteorite air, I guess.
Right.
And everything before they get wiped away. Okay. But yeah, they just have a dinner, some nice wine, a roast, and... Because there's not much else you can do, really.
That's saved me 2 hours.
Yeah. I just like, what do you like? Who's going out and smashing stuff? You got no time for that. You got 12 hours. Those people are fools. Yeah. But I guess maybe they're just angry or something. They just want to go out and smash.
I wonder what I would do. I think I would just sit with Samira and would listen to the Ricky Gervais podcast and just...
No music you want to listen to for the last time? I'd probably put on some records.
Music is quite a lonely
just in the background
for me. Actually, okay, yeah, I'd put on Bill Withers.
Nice.
I'd die to Bill Withers.
Yeah.
What music would you listen to?
Well, it's a song I want played at my funeral. There's 2 songs. I want John Butler, Ocean.
That's classic.
Yeah, and Jeff Buckley's rendition of Hallelujah.
God, you want such a morbid funeral. God, I'm going to be playing like Hey Ya.
What about Leonard Skinner's Free Bird? You like that song, don't you?
If I do your eulogy on this million, Seamus how fucking wants these old absolute downers played. So everyone, let's just get this over with and then I'll pump the real tunes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, there's no way I'm outlasting you. But there is... God, I never thought about what songs I want played at my funeral. Not Hallelujah.
Oh, it's such a beautiful song.
I prefer the Middlesbrough Football Club version where they sing Mark Viduka, Mark Viduka.
What a time.
But yeah, actually, Ocean is a good one.
Ocean's pretty uplifting.
I saw that live once at Falls at Lawn, and it was a very ecstatic moment.
Yes.
12 minutes worth of a moment.
12 minutes. And he changes it every time. He reckons he's never played it the same once.
Really?
Ever. Yeah, changes it. And he says he plays it every day.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, that's a good fact.
But,
speaking of facts.
Yes, we do have a new
new
section today. Should we move on? You got anything else
you
wanted to address?
I think we covered, and then there were none, and then there's nothing less to talk about.
Let me see.
Or do you have something else? What are we thinking here?
No. I'm good. Yeah.
And then there was nothing left.
I like quotes, but yeah.
Oh no, yeah, hit us with the quote.
Crime is terribly revealing. Try and vary your methods as you will, your tastes, your habits, your attitude of your mind, and your soul is revealed by your actions. And I think that's just sort of telling in that as people die, they start to go a bit more insane, especially Vera Claythorne, who reveals herself as a killer in the end and kills Lombard, but then hangs herself and is finally tortured enough to kill herself.
Do you think you could be a judge?
I think it'd be interesting, but nah, too much work.
Too much work? That's your problem with it, right? I just don't think I could smash the gavel. And
Well, I guess
send
in
someone
Australia we don't have capital
death
punishment
sentence
anymore, whereas back then they had capital punishment.
Definitely couldn't do that.
No, it in the TV show as well. They show him. Apparently, he goes to every sort of hanging and watches them die.
Because that's the other thing he talks about in his confession, is that he simultaneously loves to kill, but
loves to deliver justice.
And so,
which is good. Which is kind of like Dexter. He loves to kill, but he only kills if you ever watched the TV show.
I haven't.
I didn't like it.
I guess I've just got the gist of it.
He's a serial killer, but his dad taught him to only kill bad people.
Right.
I mean, they all deserve to die, really.
Yeah. But I mean, in the end, this could just be a Marvel film. It's just a vigilante.
It is.
It's just a plot for a vigilante.
Don't tell Marvel, they'll snap it up and try and make a movie.
Yeah, well, if Robert Downey Jr. was in it, maybe it'd be more interesting. And I hate Marvel.
Charles Dance is Justice Wargrave. Yeah, he's the judge. He's such a commanding voice.
Yeah, he would be a good judge.
Yeah, he's creepy as. Yeah.
Tywin Lannister.
Go and watch the show. Tywin Lannister. Oh, best character of the show.
Oh, God.
So powerful.
I also like in the Big Fat Quizzes of the Year how they have him reading celebrity biographies. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
He reads like Jordan or...
He's got such a nice
Kim
voice.
Kardashian or something.
Yeah.
And then I got button.
All right. Well, that was... And then there were none.
Mm-hmm.
We're on now. Should we start with fact or fiction first?
Yeah, fact or fiction is a
Blake?
new...
Fact or fiction?
Well... It's fact, and I think
it's all
the
fact.
idea is always going to be fact. Like we thought we'd just start a new little segment, just
fact
a little
or fiction
snippet where we just give each other a little lit fact,
yes.
literary fact every week, just to spice things up towards the end, give everyone a bit of a reason to stay on. If I, instead of Seamus, which is unlikely, am jabbering.
We probably should have told him at the start of the episode that there was a new segment.
Well, there's a new
might
segment,
not have
guys.
listened this far.
We're telling you now. Get used to it. And it's called Fact or Fiction, and we're just going to hit each other with a little quick lit fact.
Quick lit fact.
And my fact for this week is H.G. Wells, who we've spoken about a remarkable amount on this podcast for some reason in the last few weeks. He based his War of the Worlds on the colonization of Tasmania.
Whoa. That is interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Coming down to eradicate a planet of its inhabitants.
Yes, not a fun topic.
No, but yeah, I didn't know that he based it on Tasmania.
Because he's English?
Yeah, he's English, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess they'd know about Tasmania. Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah, that's my literary fact.
That's wonderful. Very good. Mm-hmm. Well, I've told you this one before, but it's too good. I love it too much. Is that Bram Stoker's wife, Bram Stoker who wrote Dracula, his wife dated Oscar Wilde in their teen years. How good's that? You've got Oscar Wilde on your hit list and Bram Stoker, two of the best writers.
Yeah, you'd be pretty happy with that.
Very happy.
Yeah.
Unless Oscar Wilde then turned gay after you.
I mean, he was just a lover of
anyone
with style.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he loved Constance, his wife, and his two children. I think he was just a
free
genius of all kinds of love, and
a
sex
great
and
writer.
gender didn't come into it too strongly.
A brilliant writer.
Yeah. Perhaps he was completely, I guess, inverted commas, heterosexual until he saw Bosie at Oxford. And if you've seen the Stephen Fry version of the film Oscar Wilde, when the young Jude Law appears on screen for the first time, I mean, I turned gay.
A few heads turned.
I turned gay in that episode, in that little snippet. I was like... Now, this week...
What are you reading?
You beat me to it.
All right, I have been reading H.P. Lovecraft's Mountain of Madness.
Really? And is it?
I'm not loving it.
Okay.
It's my first venture into Lovecraft. Everyone says he's, a real good horror writer. But so far there's not that much horror. It's a novella. It's about a team of scientists, geologists, sort of vibe go into Antarctica, and half their party gets killed. The other half of the party turns up to find out what happened, and they come across a vast settlement of like 1 million-year-old people.
Oh, okay.
And it's meant to be sort of this alien race that was pre-human.
Really?
And it's fascinating for that reason, because especially back then, Antarctica would have been so unexplored, and it still is to a degree, that coming across a vast city is very cool. But I think I'm 80 pages in of 120 pages, and there's been no sort of horror yet. We haven't seen these people. I assume the aliens are going to come forward and do some more killing or something, but
Right.
as of yet, nothing.
Okay. But it's a kind of Atlantis situation.
Kind of like, Atlantis,
Right.
but set in the depths of Antarctica.
Maybe that's where Atlantis is.
Could be.
Could be.
What are you reading this week?
This week I am reading This Is How You Lose Her by Junot Diaz, collection of short stories.
Nice.
I've read, I think, most of the other stuff that Junot Diaz has written. Drown I read at university, and Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde I read when it was like a big deal a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Could be a good episode. Have you read Brief?
No, I haven't.
It's pretty good.
Put it on the list.
And This Is How You Lose Her is pretty decent as well. I've only read the first story called Sun, Moon and Stars so far. And I think more or less like most of everything I've read of Junot Diaz, it's very Dominican, Cuban, New York based. And a kind of Dominican guy cheats on his girlfriend and kind of begs to get back with her and kind of grovels and this kind of stuff, and they get back, but she's not the same anymore, and he kind of just wants things to be the same, and now he really loves her even though he cheated on her, and he tries to they go on this trip to DR for this kind of, let me show you where my people are from. I think she's Cuban, and the relationship kind of comes apart, and I think it reminded me a bit of, I think he has a great insight into, if it's a real thing, inverted commas, the male mind, and kind of what a man is thinking at these kind of points. And there's another book of short stories I read a couple of years ago by a writer called Joshua Ferris called The Dinner Party. And every one of those stories in that book has an example or a type of toxic masculinity in it somewhere. And I think it works really quite well. He did it very well. And this is kind of similar, I think, so far. But it's a bit more excusatory. Like, you're kind of... He slightly puts you on the man's side, gives you all the excuses that such a man could come up with to excuse whatever toxic vibes they're putting out, whatever, they're doing. Which at the same time gives it a bit of ambiguity, like, I can see where he's coming from, or not in terms of the cheating, but in terms of other stuff surrounding it. But you just get this nice this mindset on display in the story, which I think he's maybe going to show in the next stories. So pretty good, and very clear cool reading, and some really good descriptions. And like it so far.
Brilliant. Love it.
This Is How You Lose Her, Junot Diaz.
Brilliant.
And H.P. Lovecraft. I've never read anything, but he wrote Dr. Strangelove, right? That's what the movie's from?
I believe so,
Only because it's called H.P. Lovecraft's Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
Have you seen that film?
No.
It's a great film. So
is it? Is it scary?
It's hilarious. No, it's great.
Oh.
It's just...
Because he's meant to be the king of modern horror.
Yeah, but it's a send-up. I don't know. It's like a parody, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's just all based in like the nuclear war room, and it's just hilarious. It's so funny.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, we can watch it together. Actually, I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do, guys. And you guys can go and read And Then There Were None.
And Then There Were None.
By Agatha Christie. The original. A.G. Toodles.
See ya.